getting to drive across the Great Sand Sea and in 3 Land Cruisers, which was not camels. We didn't take camels.
Oh, man.
No, it was more fun in the Land Cruisers. Getting chased by bandits with AK-47s. That was awesome. That was crazy. That wasn't fun. And of course, my husband was laughing hysterically during it when I'm like so angry at him because he's that guy.
I got it.
Well, we were getting away. It was okay, but I wasn't happy.
I wonder why.
But it was that classic thing of a bunch of guys in a technical Toyota pickup truck, all piled in the back with guns.
All right, everyone. Today I have Roseann Hanson, and I'm excited about this one. She is a pioneer in the overlanding space. And today we talk about all the things, her extensive international travel, her conservation work, running from bandits, and jumping off cliffs. Let's get to it. All right. Well, Roseann, thank you so much for being with us today. And this has been kind of a work in progress to make sure our schedules align.
Thanks for persevering.
Oh, no,
crazy.
It was well worth it. So we're really excited to have you with us. So thanks for making the trip.
Thank you. This is fun.
You and I kind of had our initial meeting last year by chance. I think it was like, I don't know, it made me laugh. I got self-conscious because I think I had just like hugged some husky and had dog hair like all over me. And I remember Jason was like, "Hey, I want you to meet." And I'm like, "No, I can't meet anybody right now." But you and I were chatting, and you have quite the connection to the Overland community. And obviously that's something that, for those of you who don't know, that's something that I've been participating in for the last 6-7 years. And still learning a lot about. I think if it's not something, it wasn't something I grew up with. It's something that I've kind of found in my like later 30s. So I'm still just trying to figure out how to drive off-road, and that there's an entire... there's so much history to this activity that we all participate in, and so many different versions of it. And so I'm excited because I know with what you've been doing as far as your teaching and your interaction with the community as a whole, you have found some awesome stories, and whether they be other people's stories or your own experience. So
that's what the overlanding world is about. It's about stories and people.
Absolutely.
And exploring to find those things.
And I think kind of like, I feel like I'm figuring out my own story, even though the overlanding thing is just what I do. It's not necessarily my identity as a person as a whole. But I really have found that like in this journey, gosh, this sounds so cliche, all these, in this journey that I'm on, it's really like so many things parallel with like life. And maybe because you're just out experiencing.
That's what I think. That's what I was going to say is overlanding really is about the journey. Like you said, it sounds totally cliche, but as opposed to four-wheeling, overlanding is more about exploring to not just for yourself, but to meet people and expand your world, which means bringing others into your world. And it's hard to do that sitting behind a computer. Well, we do it, but it's not really real. So that's what...
It's not real at all.
But that's kind of what brought us all together. And it's funny, but at the Overland Expos and events, most of us are kind of antisocial, except at the events where we come together and get to meet people like you. But in the end, I'm usually like, I don't want to be around people when I'm outdoors. I want to be away from people. So that's kind of the the conundrum I have.
It is. That's interesting. Because I actually didn't attend Expo for years. In my mind, it was like, I don't need to buy anything. Like, I didn't understand.
The industry says, bad.
Yeah, right. We all need all the things.
That's good.
But I think I was like, well, I don't need to purchase anything. And I didn't enter into the whole experience for the community, initially at least.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because I was so set on just figuring out where the dirt roads ended and what was on the other side of the trail and where did that go. So it was a very personal thing for a long time. Like I avoided groups. I wouldn't go out with people. I thought it was strange. I was like, why? I want it to be quiet. I don't want to go out with other people. So I understand that like we enjoy the solitude. That is a very valuable element of what we do. But the community is pretty amazing.
It is. And that surprised me. My husband and we're super happy being on our own and not speaking to other humans for weeks and weeks. I mean, like COVID was like, oh, cool. We don't have to talk to anybody. We don't have to go anywhere. And that I say with very also cognizant that a lot of people died and that was really a cool thing to feel. But truly, it wasn't a hardship for us like I know it was for people and others. But we're really antisocial, and to have founded this event that brought together thousands of people, like, what am I doing? This is weird.
Yeah, you're responsible for that.
But it's our chosen family in a way.
That's awesome.
Not in a way, it absolutely is.
So what is that? I think that history or that origin story is really interesting, and for reasons I'm guessing we'll touch on, really struck me as important. But what was your history before the creation of the event? Had this been something you guys had been doing for a long period of time? Like when did it all start for you?
Well, unlike a lot of folks, I think I grew up overlanding. We didn't call it that. Overlanding as nomenclature, as something we call something, was very British. To overland from London to Cape Town or London to Singapore was something done, and I think it really got going in the 50s with the first Land Rovers. And, to overland to these places, you just hop in your Land Rover and go. And hundreds, thousands of people did it. And that tradition stayed alive in Australia, the colonies, throughout Africa. But, in North America, we called it camping.
Yeah, right.
And I grew up doing that. I'm the child of good Irish Catholics, tons of children,
Gotcha.
One of five. Although that, in the Irish Catholic world, my dad and mom didn't really produce that many, right? His sisters had 12. But I know, doesn't that make you just go, but...
My mother's one of 12.
So they couldn't. They couldn't afford to go.
Gotcha.
We didn't do Disneyland. Yeah. We piled into the Travelall and went camping in Mexico and all over the American Southwest. And so, I didn't stay in a hotel until I was 17.
Wow.
I know.
Okay.
Like going to the bathroom in the woods is like, this is totally normal. Oh, wow. There's like flush toilets in a hotel.
So you were an outdoor cat. You were really, that was where you were comfortable.
Exactly. I don't like campgrounds with regular toilet. I like to be out. I don't have people around me. So I grew up doing that. So did my husband. We met when I was only 19 and married that year.
Okay.
And 38 years later, I'm still going.
Awesome.
So he did too. He explored that way as a child. So it was part of our life. And about, let's see, mid 2000s, we got involved with a community online that was more about exploring than the 4x4, the kind of get out and bash your truck up and see what you could do. It was more about what you could see, not what you could do. And my husband and some friends started a magazine called Overland Journal in 2007, the development in 2008 it came out. And before that, my husband Jonathan and I would go to four-wheel drive events, and I just didn't feel like there was a space for me. And even my husband, he was just like, I go because I want to see what's new, what's out there for equipment, but it wasn't our community. And especially for a woman at the time, events for the 4x4 community objectified women. The only women there were in bikinis and they were draped over vehicles and they were objects, not part of the community. So when the magazine was just getting going and we realized, who's ever heard of overlanding in North America? It was called Overland Journal. And so I started this event. I had done events before. That was my background in a different space, not in the adventure space, but more conservation and natural history. I did a lot of events for Audubon and worked for a lot of national groups doing that. So I started this event with just, I think we had 900 people. And there were, I want to say 20 vendors, which was amazing. Yeah. Really, really like.
For a first time event.
And they trusted us to do this. And it was a group of us that did this. And I made sure to create a space that didn't exist before. Mm-hmm. And that is one where the idea was to bring together people who want to explore, not exploit, not conquer, but to see the landscape, to meet new people, different cultures, and bringing in that very definitely a British feel of what's over the horizon.
Right.
Where can you take your Land Rover or your Land Cruiser or your motorcycle? So, and to make women feel comfortable as well.
That when you said that last year, that blew me away because I mean, we had never interacted and I had never really dug into where that out. Didn't know the story was so good. I would have gone after it. But when you said that, it was so amazing because I think it's not like the struggle because we don't, as women, I don't think we struggle. We are the smaller, we're the minority maybe in the group. It is, there's a lot of guys around but the family element is definitely coming in, which is bringing in a lot more women.
Yes.
And women, I think, by example of those who have gone before us, those who are doing, girls are starting to realize like, oh, I can do that. I'm not eliminated from that. So,
and I don't need a partner to do it.
Yeah.
I can do it on my own.
Absolutely. And so hearing that there was some element of that you weren't quite seeing a representation of what you were there. It's like, oh, there's women, but I'm not quite that. I'm not the calendar model.
Yeah. So one of the ways I made sure that we made women part of it was I offered free daycare.
Okay.
Because what I was seeing is that families would come, but the men would go off with their trucks and get to take all the classes and do that, and mom would care for the kids. And she didn't get a chance necessarily to be an equal and get to go drive on the driving course or the motorcycle course. And so the free daycare allowed them to, just be there without having to worry. The kids had fun. We actually also developed a kids adventure program, so the kids had their own mini overlanding stuff to do, taught by kids.
Okay.
I can't take credit for it. I was pitched this idea, this is just a great side story, by a 9-year-old little girl who had been coming to Overland Expo for 2 years. This was only the 3rd year in, and she's like, there isn't anything for kids to do. And that's not a criticism, but I propose that I develop a kids adventure program. And I'm like, holy crap, who is this kid? This is awesome. And she's like, I'll do this. And I want them to be kid instructors. We don't want adults instructing us. I'm going to recruit kid instructors. So Grace Howard came on. I hired her at 9 years old. And she stayed the kids adventure program director until I think last year.
What?
She's in college now.
That's Write that name down. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, and
That's
she,
amazing.
Well, and she learned to drive Land Rovers when she was 14. She can double clutch and drive a right-hand drive. She's pretty awesome.
That's so cool.
She's like totally getting a sidetrack here, but it's an example of what the program did for kids and young women. Because Grace, the great story this summer, she worked for the Forest Service in between semesters, and on her team, they were out doing, I can't remember, they were repairing sites and just basically being a work team crew with other kids. And I think there were several men and women on her crew. And when they got a flat tire, nobody knew how to change the tire except Grace. So she's out there. Yeah. Right. Good to go. Did you guys watch that? Because you're going to do it next time.
Yeah. That was your tutorial.
So anyway, kind of got sidetracked with that.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great story.
That let parents free to enjoy, and women especially then felt like you were more part of the story, not part of the show.
Yeah. And that's important. I think that, because I think that women, when involved, we're never going to be like equal participants in that, like we do it exactly the same. Like I think we derive different benefits from the activity as our male counterparts do for them. And so like when we come together with the respect for each other, I've only seen like amazing partnerships and things happen when like we acknowledge that like, no, we're going to do this together. And like, we want to hear their perspective and we want to hear that. And like, when we look at a repair or a recovery of some sort, I always find it interesting how different men and women will speak to each other. And that communication sometimes is like, that's so important when teaching people. Cause like you can hear, there's been individuals where you're like, you're listening to them help you through something. And I'm like, I can't, not you anymore. Like it's me and you don't communicate the same way. I need someone else. So how valuable that like that similar language is. And
that's a really, really good point. I hadn't thought about that. I intuit that, but I hadn't actually heard it articulated. I like that.
Oh, good.
I really like that. No, it speaks to how we designed everything because I would not have back an instructor who couldn't speak to all the people. And there's plenty of men who come to the expo who they don't even know how to put their vehicle in four-wheel drive. You ask them about the diff, and they're like, "The what?"
Ooh, we got to start there.
It's that little thing that turns it into a four-wheel drive. Okay, let's back up. So we can't assume that just because you're male, you know everything there is to know about vehicles.
Absolutely, and I think that's good for women to hear that are like feeling insecure about not knowing everything. That I think it presents differently. Men just present things differently. So you just assume, well, he must know. It's like, well, no, he can be just as green as you are. And the beauty is we just got to do it together. We got to get in there and do the activity. One of the previous podcasts, she referred to it as just your seat time is so important, or maybe it was your butt time. It was a little bit butt time, but it was true. It was like a great picture of it. Just requires time in the seat doing the thing. Yeah, and that's the same for men and women. So,
yes, it is. Yeah, yes, it is. I had the most adorable phone call early on and this is to show that we can't be sexist and say it's only the girls who don't have experience overlanding or camping or whatever. I got a phone call from a guy who said, we signed up for Overland Expo, but so it's my girlfriend who talked me into it, and I've never camped, and I can't ask her this, but I don't know how to go to the bathroom in the woods. And I was like, oh, wow, this is amazing. Yeah. I mean, it's also amazing to be talking to a stranger on the phone about pooping, but it was like, okay, don't worry about it, but let me explain. Yeah. This is weird, but awesome too. So it's
definitely not. And again, I think it all is to that. We all need different ways to communicate, or we all require different ways of communication to learn and feel comfortable with different pathways. Because I've experienced similar things where I've noticed sometimes men will send me like a DM on social media asking I should know this question but I feel comfortable presenting this to you
nice.
rather than presenting it to the guys that I go with, because I'm going to get ridiculed if I don't know this. And so and when they present it that way, it's like, I'm honored that like, oh, well, that's my voice in this space, that like you felt comfortable asking that question. Like, I don't understand what the difference is between these two. Why would you do that? So
that's really,
that to me,
nice.
that's really cool. And then I feel like, oh, then I am a member of the community, which I know I am, but it's like, it affirms that, where you're like, oh, I'm doing something that it's not just for women. My voice isn't just for this. It's, I can communicate with the guys too, just as effectively.
Yeah.
Well, some of them. No,
that was leading to my next kind of comment was, I did develop women's only classes, and I got a little criticism on that, even from some women. They're like, well, I don't want that. You're just going to dumb this stuff down for women. We were like, oh my gosh, no. It's not that we're dumbing it down. You're learning the same thing in the regular classes. It's that certain women are more comfortable learning without the pressure of a spouse in particular. That can be super stressful. And that way you just don't have to worry about that. And I saw in classes, like, a lot of guys would take over, that even if the instructor wasn't good enough to kind of shut that down, they would be like, meh, 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 I know everything. And I'd see couples who we always told them, look, if you buy this sportsmobile or this global expedition vehicle, both of you need to know how to drive it.
Absolutely.
And the reason is, and we have plenty of examples of travelers, you guys are going to drive to who knows where. Your partner has a heart attack, which we know has happened, or got injured. You've got to drive that vehicle out. So we want you to learn how. And we'd see them together, and the guys would get they'd create a tension.
Yeah.
And the women would be like, and mess up, stall the vehicle, or lurch, or burst into tears.
Right.
So we created this women's only for that very reason.
It's funny that because I've been at events where there has been a part of the curriculum, there's classes all day open to everybody, and then there'll be a female specific class. And I am speaking generally, of course, and this is not the men in our community as a whole are fantastic.
Absolutely.
And it is always just a few that maybe just get a little loud, and you're like, oh, don't do that. Like, don't play into that stereotype. But it was a little disheartening, and I just felt like it needed some explanation. Like, I wanted to stop everybody and be like, let me give you the real reason why we're doing a women's only course, because literally they had started like a peanut gallery off to the side. The men had. So it was 30 women. There was different groups, and we were helping like marshal women through an obstacle, and they were learning how to do that. And the men were they were there to be supportive, but it kind of became a little bit of a peanut gallery.
Yeah.
And I think it was all well intended. It just got a little sideways. I
can imagine.
But one of the comments that came from there, after things had kind of gone back and forth, and the instructors had gotten the female instructors had gotten a little bit like, hey, you got to shut up. Like, this is not for you. And then the response was like, how come you guys get your own class? Oh. And it kind of it halted everything. And, communication, it got tense, and it was just unfortunate in that moment. But I felt like I wanted to, like, gentlemen, like, this is not to exclude you in any way. I mean, we would love for this all to be co-ed and everyone, but women perceive emotion and are sensitive to different things. And especially when you're asking us to learn something new, this is just one of the beautiful differences between men and women. But us as women understand how delicate some of those, when you get frustrated, when you start to feel fear, what that can do to your psyche. And then we have to insulate you for a second and go, no. Like, let's get this under control again. And sometimes the male energy is a little bit more like, just do it this way, and they're trying to be helpful. And I just wanted to I'm like, please, it's not because we don't like you guys. Like, of course we would love you to be here.
But they were demonstrated why we were.
It was case in point right here,
Well, I can't learn from my husband.
So can I high five that?
Yeah, I'm like, so case in point, he does this thing when he's like, I'm really good at backing up. I can hook up a trailer. I can, do all that stuff. But when he's marshaling me, I go more slowly than he does. And so he does this thing. He's like, and I'm like, I'll stop and give him that look. I'm like, don't do that.
We've been married long
Because
enough.
I'll just stop. I'm like, nope, I hate that. So we tend to have other people marshal us because also, he'll say, my hands are flapping all over and I'm not doing it right. What does this mean? So it's not a done deal that, just because we're both overlanders and we both teach and everything that we can do it together. Yeah.
We definitely communicate differently. But I just think that specifically in those learning moments, it's just so important. It's so helpful for women to just be around other women.
Yeah. And honestly, there's also, I was sympathetic to the fact that a lot of these guys, they put so much time and energy into their beautiful, 80 series Land Cruiser, which was, just perfect and amazing. And then he didn't want his wife to drive it because she might, scratch it or ding it or, do that. So we brought in Land Rover and they had loaner vehicles. So you could drive if your spouse partner could be the opposite. It could be a woman who didn't want her new boyfriend.
I've heard that story too.
Go drive a Land Rover. And I remember one specifically after a woman got to have her own vehicle, she came back to her husband. She's like, I want a new Discovery or LR4 is what they call it. And I could just see his eyes go, you're talking about a $90,000 vehicle here. And I'm like, yes. She wanted her own vehicle.
Yep.
So that's just pretty cool.
It is cool. And I love that is, it is definitely a luxury. But honestly, with some sacrifices, a lot of people are able to do it. I mean, it's about what the priority is in life. Where do you want to apply your money? And then what are your long-term goals for this?
Exactly.
And so it's easy to sit outside of the circle and be like, wow, that's a ton of money to dump in that.
Yeah,
that seems crazy.
Call them, mall cruisers and soccer mom, vehicles. But I always want to defend the people who farkle out their trucks or their motorcycles. The motorcycles are just bristling with everything you could possibly put on it. It's already weighs too much. And then anyway. But so what if that makes you happy? Because Americans, we only have 2 weeks of vacation a year. We can't do a leave of absence like you can in Europe. We used to lose our health care when we did that. We used to lose everything if you quit your jobs. And so I'm really sympathetic to that. Not everybody can go drive around the world. Yeah,
and we really need to we need to quit spending other people's money. Like, I feel like sometimes we get really...
being judgmental about
how the, I don't know this person. And because you feel that where it's like, oh, I can't believe you spent it on this, or I can't believe you did that. And it's so funny because it's like, and I am sure I am guilty of having those conversations and participating at some
just
point.
Not on camera, right?
Of course, never on camera.
Yeah.
But as I've been maturing in this space, you're starting to realize, you know what? I don't have to drive that vehicle.
Exactly.
That's your vehicle. So you get to do whatever you want, the same way I would like you to respect whatever I do with my vehicle.
Yeah, it's not my way's the only way.
No, it's totally not.
I struggled with that at Overland Expo over the 10 years I owned it, because there were factions of people who were minimalists, and this one person who's just really made fun of publicly, a person who was very well known in the community would ridicule the people who didn't do it that person's way. And that really bothered me. And I had a lot of some upset people come back to me and say, wow, I used to really like that person, but they just made fun of my lifestyle. They made fun of me. And so I want to emphasize that this thing we're talking about, overlanding, exploring, whatever we want to call it, camping.
Yeah.
Camping with a lot of money. No, it's got every spectrum from take take your 20-year-old vehicle and head off with whatever blankets and sleeping bag you have and a cooler.
Yep.
No fridge.
God forbid.
I know. Sorry. I agree. But all the way up to the most lavish vehicles with marble countertops.
Right.
Which did exist. And I don't think they're in business anymore. But it was, everything in between. And all incomes, all orientations, everything.
Yeah. There's space for everybody.
And that's what I loved about the expo. And it still is. It's still a place for that. And it's driven by a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But I like that stuff. We enjoy looking at the new equipment and amazing new innovations.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so many, it is not my lane to be a tinkerer, but I am always fascinated with individuals who just, they see a product and they're like, I could build it. And, and weeks later, they're creating their own version of that. And I find that that's really cool. And it's also created its own little economy. There's, the businesses that have been allowed to start and turn into other things and be sold. And that is the fun. Yeah, it requires that means there's things being sold and, money exchanging hands and there's a business involved. And I get you can be critical of that. But that is the life that keeps this whole thing going and gives us a community to come back to and resources.
Exactly.
So
I love that part too.
Yeah, it's all necessary. And to me, it's a healthy ecosystem if it's all working together. Because otherwise we're like, there's no one like us. There's no community. There's no place to be central and hang out.
And that's the community part. And that's what was new when I started Overland Expo is there were plenty of shows, but not with the learning and the community and that expansion. The expansion of yourself in terms of learning something new, exploring someplace new. Yeah. It's that expansion that really attracts me.
Absolutely.
That's why we do what we do.
Well, thank you for doing that. Because thank you for, I guess just for organizing it, putting it together, because I think so many of us have benefited from the community that has evolved over the years with Expo.
It's been wonderful.
Now there's 4 events all over.
Yes. Overland Expo had 2 events when I sold it. We had the West in Flagstaff.
Okay.
And we had in North Carolina. In the
okay,
fall.
So East has been
we
around.
Had 2. I started East in 14.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
all right. So
and we bounced around a number of venues, but I love the venue they have now. It's wonderful.
Yeah, they kind of had some.
It was hot. Well, and we had the most epic weather, and
it became a thing every year.
It was so hard. It was what almost destroyed my health. We have a hurricane coming in from here, a tropical depression here, and and then there's another storm. It's called I can't remember. It's a something dumped 12 inches of rain in 8 hours over our event.
Yeah. The mud I heard was epic.
It was beyond epic. We had vehicles sliding down hills without people in them.
Yeah.
And but the Land Rover people, Bob Burns, bless his heart, Bob, he kept it running. He kept the Land Rover driving course running through the rain and the mud. They were killing it.
Oh, how fun.
And they were having fun.
This is what we're built for, guys.
I'm like, well, we're all stuck here. It's epic. It's the worst flooding in the history of this area. So we're stuck here. Let's play in the mud.
Oh, that's the spirit of the event. Then that's great. Well, so it's been great to see that it's evolved, and I know you guys aren't a part of the ownership anymore, but you're obviously...
We still teach.
Yes.
And, and really enjoy that. And we actually get to walk the show.
like a normal person. Yeah, normal person. You're not stressed out of your mind making sure everything's working right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, and I'm happy for you in that. And that allowed you and I to just cross paths.
Exactly.
And so that was great.
Probably couldn't have if I had been running the show. I'd be like, Jillian, who? No, have her call me later.
Events are, that's a special calling, I think, to do events. That is a rough gig. Anyone's like, just do a thing. And I'm like, you don't understand what just do a thing.
Yeah, armchair quarterbacks who would, criticize what we do. I'm like, you really don't have any idea.
It's like nothing goes
Oh,
right.
you should do this. Right.
Why don't you do it?
Why don't you do it? Oh, you can't? No, it's true. It's a strange calling.
And so it is a strange calling. But you also mentioned Overland Journal. And so that was something, when did that get created?
2008 was the first issue.
Oh, 2008. Okay. And that's something that stuck around. I mean, we don't have a lot of publications just in general anymore, physical publications. But that's something that's just been done so beautifully and I think has really been a great archive for the, I keep wanting to call it the sport, but like the community as well. And so, but that's not something you guys are a part of anymore either. That was
we sold our shares in it. Don't work with them anymore.
Okay. So
that was quite a long time ago in 2010. So.
Oh, okay. But still, it's amazing like how much you're a part of that early tapestry of the creation of what I see as like, oh, this is Overland. Because I came in.
It was special. A lot of us, there's a small group who are still involved who were kind of there for the North American beginning. It took a lot of people to do it. It wasn't just a few of us.
Right.
It took a lot of people. And a lot of them are still active and around. And now there's a new renaissance in the United Kingdom, in Great Britain, of overlandings coming back. And we're involved in a small event there now called the Armchair Adventure Festival, which has just gotten going. It started during COVID it was online, which I wasn't a big fan of online events.
Yeah, I don't.
Until, I was even quoted January 2020, mark that date, January 2020, in a meeting as saying, we don't do nature and outdoor stuff online. That's just weird. No, we're not developing an online. And then March 2020, suddenly, guess who was doing online?
Yeah. The universe has a funny way of saying, you know what? Why don't we try something different?
Yeah. And now I fully embrace that learning because it brings people together who couldn't normally get together or couldn't afford to.
Yeah. And isn't that I think that's the case with a lot of technology that while for all of its shortcomings with certain things or even the things that it's introduced into society that we don't really find favorable, it really has brought or added a new element for the community to come together, the connectivity with each other. And, we don't write letters. We don't stay in contact in these physical ways anymore, but it's great that we can reach out either through social media or through other electronic ways.
And follow these people who are doing really incredible journeys. That's definitely a positive part of online adventure, I'll call it. And Armchair Adventure Festival is now an in-person, but we're going to still keep doing the online part.
Wonderful.
So I think that's a benefit. Matt and Reese, who run that, the sidecar guys, they rode a sidecar.
Oh, awesome.
Scooter.
Okay. Oh, this is, okay,
scooter.
that's right.
Yeah. Around the world.
Okay.
And they had never even been on a motorcycle. They were completely inept. And it's a lovely story. But anyway, they are the ones who founded it. And we just love them. And
your connection to them, though, because you have a bit of like a foundation that sponsors travel. And I hate to jump ahead, but we might as well chat.
That's a good segue. Not segue.
No.
Brings up a
that
whole
kind of a scooter. That's a different thing.
Bad thing. Okay, no, transition. Is during Overland Expo, we started a Change Your World Fund. It had a sad beginning. It was at our East show. There was a young man from Australia, Alistair Farland, who everyone just fell in love with him. He was his first big adventure, his early 20s, flew his motorcycle up to Alaska, and he was riding down to the tip of South America and hooked up with us. He taught some classes, and he wanted to change the world. And he felt like his generation just sucked at interacting. They were on their screens too much. They weren't seeing the world. And that was his big message. And very, very sadly, right after the expo, he crashed his motorcycle, was in an accident, and he died. And he and his parents and Jonathan and I and a few people started this fund in his honor. And so over the years, we took applications, but also mostly we found people word of mouth who were young, wanted to sort of target people in their 20s, and were doing something incredible, but also that had an element of giving back. So to a purpose, and not just picking up trash or something like that, but something that would change the world, right? So, or inspire people by what you're doing. So we had, for example, Candida Lewis, who's a young Indian woman who, if you're not familiar, in India, being a young woman who rides a motorcycle is a big challenge because of the sexism, frankly. Very, very difficult. She is intensely pressured to get married and not do what she's doing. It's very difficult for her. But she was the first Indian woman to do this epic journey across 22 countries. She rode from, I think, Mumbai all the way to Sydney, Australia. And just kicked ass. She did an amazing job. And she has inspired hundreds of thousands of people through her Instagram and is continuing. She just did another epic journey through Europe in a really short time on her motorcycle named Sky. And
speaking of women on motorcycles, I want to continue this story, but it is, I don't know if because I've picked up a motorcycle this last year, I don't know if suddenly it's just on my radar more, but I feel like the visibility for that has become, I mean, to me, it rivals some of the male adventurers who to me were like kind of the staples of that world.
Yeah, they got the spotlight. Yeah.
But like, I feel like now I'm just starting to, there are women all over right now doing.
I would say they're dominating in terms of numbers, or is it just there's more of them on social media? I don't know, but I would say I see more.
It's changing for sure.
Women.
Something's adjusting, and I'm amazed. And a lot of them, and not all of them, but a lot are solo. And that's to me that. It's funny how I'm totally on board with solo vehicle, like full vehicle travel. That doesn't, I don't bat an eye. Yeah, women do that, no problem. But somehow on the motorcycle, there's a pause in my mind, like, oh, okay,
really interesting. So I have the opposite.
Okay,
I feel like motorcycle is a really natural extension of easy travel for women. And so people like Lois Price and, Elspeth Beard, we'll talk about her. I want to come back.
No, we have to come back to that one.
Because she's our inspiration.
Absolutely.
But she's 10 years older than I. So pretty much almost a generation, not a generation, but what would you call it? Adventure generation.
Yeah, for sure.
Not age generation, but yeah, Lois, they did it in small CC bikes. So it's something you can pick up and handle yourself and not these massive, although I see, like, I couldn't pick up.
The big bikes are crazy.
Yeah, but they're doing it.
They are.
But I felt like that was a natural entree to adventure for women. Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting.
Where vehicles I felt were more intimidating because how would you work on it yourself? How would you... They're a little bit more difficult to work on yourself. You take your what was it, Honda? No, Lois had a Yamaha. She could strip it and get it all put back together.
The simplicity of the
really
machine.
Easy. Yeah,
that makes sense. I guess and maybe because for me my my start was with a vehicle. There's like some weird security about the cab of my truck that is like where I feel less vulnerable. And right now I'm learning how to ride a motorcycle, so it's a lot of vulnerable.
Yeah, and when you crash, it
all
can
the
be
time.
way bad.
Yeah.
It can be
so
bad.
I'm
there.
So maybe it's just where I'm at in this journey.
No, I grew up riding motorcycles.
Okay.
So we had horses, we had little motorcycles. So I had a Honda Trail 90.
Okay.
My first motorcycle, and I've got the scar right here. Like, if you don't know, they've got the stupid exhaust that comes up.
There's so many burns like that.
Yes. And of course, did I wear protection? No, we drove around in flip-flops and shorts.
Of course.
And so, yeah.
We never do that now.
I have this awesome, I put my bare leg right on the
I've heard
muffler.
You live with that one.
Yeah, so there's the Trail 90 Club for those stupid enough to wear shorts. Wear all gear all the time, folks. Don't do what I did. But crashing. Yeah, it's a whole different thing. And I can understand why a vehicle would be more comfortable.
Yeah.
But
the desire to do motorcycle travel is definitely like something that I mean, had life kind of mapped itself differently, it'd be like, oh, I would have done that. And I know especially with my own words and the way I like talk to people, it's like, well, why not do it?
Yeah.
You know, like there's.
it's still I still want to do it. I bought a BMW R80 GS with that in mind, and the life just didn't. It just didn't work out, and I also just ended up not liking riding in traffic. I got too many close calls, run off the road, almost smashed it. I thought, wow, this is a really good way to die. I think I'm not ready yet. So let me think about this. So, but I'm there with motorcycle travel. I would really love to do that. And it's not something my husband and I would do together. He loves motorcycles, but I don't think we did a few rides together, but I want to do it alone.
Yeah, the passion isn't quite, or it's not the same experience.
It's totally. I don't know. You did not grow up with horses? I understand.
No, no. We can talk about that too. Yeah, we're in that process. I'm in a lot of learning processes this year. So
I did grow up with horses, and there's that connection. I was talking with someone last night about. And we keep kind of going back to this theme of women, but hey, we're women. That's what we're going to talk about. Have you seen? And you can see it without having grown up with horses. But there's that little girl horse relationship. You see it a lot where little girls fall in love with horses, and they either get to have one or they're just in love with horses. And I think it's because they gave us this ultimate autonomy to be powerful through this incredible relationship with something that, a huge animal. I mean, ridiculous how unsafe it is. Because at least I can control a throttle on my motorcycle, where a horse is like, I want you off my back. So
I have no idea what you're talking about.
No, I know. Why would you know that? Tell us about that. But your motorcycle's not going to run you into a hedge or buck you off. Well, I suppose if you were a bad rider, but...
I mean, I'm not going to say I haven't done that, but it was kind of my own doing. You know, it's my own hand on the throttle that's bucking me off eventually. But there's something about...
There isn't this animate being.
Right. With its own thought process. And desire.
But there's that. So I think that that's a continuum, that it gives us this incredible sense of accomplishment to be on your own with... And we just translated to horsepower. Right? So motorcycles.
Of course.
So being on a motorcycle alone is the same feeling I have riding a horse alone.
Yeah, I could see that.
I love it.
It's fun to talk about this stuff with women or just anybody, but I don't know. Often I don't get to have real deep conversations with individuals who are just really going after it, because there is something about there's a freedom that's involved in the travel that we do. Mm-hmm. And specifically to the motorcycle topic, I think that has been my desire to get on a motorcycle, is because I've always understood that, like, I love the freedom of my vehicle and to be able to go wherever I want to go with the truck within reason. But I'm, self-sustaining and like I feel independent because of, the skills I have and then the truck I've built. And so that's great. But it's like, okay, let's translate that to a motorcycle. Yeah. And knowing my dad and my older brother rode motorcycles, and they were gone by the time I came around, but knowing that their experiences, and it's like, I want to take that freedom to the next level. So I think that's why I think that women going out and getting on a bike solo, while I have hesitations of like, oh, am I ready for that? The desire is so strong to accomplish that, or to experience some version of that.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the same for any gender.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's why motorcycles are so popular right now.
Yeah.
It appeals to every age.
Yeah.
And every gender. It's really in it.
I
love them. So I sold my BMW, but I have another motorcycle somewhere in the future, for sure.
Yeah.
If I can just only ride it out in the dirt and not have to deal with traffic.
I haven't done the traffic thing yet, so I'm with you on that one. It's the
whole texting thing's changed the world in terms of being on a bicycle and a motorcycle.
Yeah.
I used to bicycle commute everywhere, and I have felt recently, as well, it's your municipality that you live in, but Tucson is incredibly unsafe for bicycles.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Incredibly unsafe. So,
Well, I live in Southern California, and
Yes.
my motorcycle does not come out in the city. Like, you got to wait till you hit dirt. You're not doing anything
I guess
here.
I need to just get a trailer for mine. Yeah.
So the gentleman that traveled with the scooters, and then Candida on the motorcycle. So I know you said these individuals were sponsored through the foundation. How many individuals or groups have been supported?
We did
through that?
individuals,
Okay.
and I want to say it's about 7 total over the years since we started it in 2014 to when we sold the show in 2019. And happy to say that Overland Expo's new owners started the Overland Expo Foundation, and we portaged the fund over. So the Change Your World Fund is still going.
Okay.
And they're just taking applications, I believe, for their first awards, because I know COVID put a pause on all that. Okay. So very, very excited, because I think the overlanding community needs to also give back, and that can happen through sponsoring people to achieve something. It can happen by sponsoring conservation efforts, landscapes that were damaged by irresponsible four-wheel drive or what have you. Although I think our community isn't the ones doing it, we can be the ones helping to heal the land. So there are loads of ways to give back, wildlife conservation, but the Change Your World Fund was a really, really important part of it for me when I was still running Overland Expo. And probably one of the most inspiring people was Kirk Williams. Kirk is a young man who was a crazy adventurer, and he had a horrible mountain bike accident and broke his neck. And he says he's fortunate, if you can be fortunate and be a quadriplegic. But the first person on the scene of the accident in Colorado was a neurosurgeon.
Oh, wow.
Who knew what to do to stabilize. And therefore he didn't have he didn't die, which he quite well have. And he retained all he can move are just his fingers.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So that gives him some mobility that some people with his cervical injury don't. So he proposed to take his specially outfitted Ford Transit four-wheel drive, which he has a crane outfitted to lift his chair, and he has all sorts of special outfitted the inside specially for his wheelchair and all his needs, and he controls it with one hand. And he drove it down the length of South America. Independently, however, he did have to have a motorcycle kind of a companion, which was his brother, because his injury was such that he can't sweat or regulate his own temperature. So if he got a flat tire or had an engine trouble in the middle of Bolivia, he could die from not being able to manage his.
Gotcha.
So he had to have someone
that's a
for
challenge.
a safety. But he did it.
That's amazing.
However, they got stuck in Buenos Aires. That's when COVID hit.
Oh, like stuck.
That's
where they were.
Couldn't move. Couldn't go anywhere. They were locked
wow.
down. Spent I don't know how many months before the U.S. government flew them out.
I guess we live here now.
Yeah. I mean, for a while they were joking because it's like, they could. When they went out, I don't know if you've been to Argentina, but it's like the land of the most beautiful women and men you've ever seen. And Kurt and his brother were like, "This is a great place to be," but then it got old. Gotcha. Anyway, so he's still doing incredible things. He raises money to take wheelchairs to countries where people have no access to that kind of equipment that we take for granted.
Yeah.
So he's inspiring people. He's inspired thousands of people in wheelchairs to have adventures, and people who aren't. I mean, who aren't disabled. I know that's probably not the right word, but differently abled. Everybody can be inspired by someone who doesn't take a really terrible accident like that and just shut down. I'm just so inspired by Kirk, especially. He's always so giving of his time, and inspires the rest of us to do these crazy things.
And again, I mean, back to that same, what we were saying in the beginning, is the community allows those stories to be told. I mean, all of it, everything you said in the beginning. The storytelling is a huge part of the community, but like they're so important for humans. We love to be inspired. We love to see others doing things and go, oh, there's an example of that, or something that triggers something in me, and I can go after it. And I think,
isn't that a truth? The story is what it's all about. If we think about it, that's what overlanding embodies. Absolutely. That's why we all fell in love with it. Yeah. That's why we renamed it from camping, is because it's gathering stories. It's whether it's your stories from the weekend that you just spent, or the stories from driving to Ushuaia, or the people you meet, the animals you meet.
The flat tires you have, the things that go wrong. That's what we love. I love like well, okay, I will be honest. While the things are bad are happening, I'm not really loving it. No. I'm definitely like in a mood and not enjoying it. But I do think that some of the trail experiences or the trip experiences that have been the most disastrous are the best stories ever. I mean, the funny things that happened, or the unforeseen, experiences that transpire because you ended up somewhere longer than you were supposed to be, or for whatever reason. It's
well, that's the definition of an adventure.
Yeah,
it's a trip until things just totally screw up, and then it's an adventure.
Now it's an adventure. Now I have no idea what we're doing.
Yeah, and I love those, and that's where social media. I do like. I love hate it. We talked about that last night, but to see that, I love the people who are totally honest. I don't like the ones who edit out everything and they always look perfect and are having the most amazing time and everything. I like the people who put in the crap and the I've just, they're covered in mud. And they're like, I've just failed to pick up my motorcycle 15 times. Fuck this, I'm not doing this anymore. I hate this.
Yep.
I'm going to fly home.
Yep. It's over. I'm done.
I just saw that on an Instagram feed.
But that's a part of it.
I loved that. Yeah. It wasn't the perfect, always beautiful. And it was a young woman. It wasn't the perfect, I'm out here doing the yoga on my motorcycle thing. You don't know about the yoga motorcycle thing?
No, I don't. That's a thing?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's a thing.
Yeah, especially naked yoga on a motorcycle.
Oh, gosh, I'm missing a whole part of the internet, apparently.
Well, it's usually women, so you
good Lord.
Yeah, don't get me started.
I mean, whatever. Ladies, do whatever you want, I guess.
But, so back to that, I just like that honesty and the stories.
Yeah.
And it's those crazy things that make us, I don't know, we remember the trips that things... went sideways more than the perfect ones. At least I do.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. There's I think because I think through those challenges that's where we actually grow. We learn things, we figure stuff out. And I think I don't know, my personality enjoys that. I think most of us do. I don't think that's unique to me. But I think going through a period of growth, even though it's painful, like that whole process can be uncomfortable. As I've gotten older, it's like I've really grown to very quickly be like, but I didn't know how to do this before that. Or
I wouldn't have if it hadn't broken or left you stranded.
And for someone who didn't do vehicle travel like this and didn't camp, there's a lot of first experiences that even though I've been doing it for 7 years, I still get to experience regularly. Like, I haven't seen this before. So learning to go, okay, this is uncomfortable. I hate it. I'm going to, cry about it for a moment. And then, once we get past it and you see light at the end of the tunnel, or maybe we won't die out here. Very dramatic, obviously. I know the takeaway is going to be significant. So it's like, like, this is what you write down. This is the stuff you talk about. Because I think this is the good stuff.
Yeah.
Where you see growth and change as a person. So,
Oh, that's a good point. And that's again, kind of that seductive thing about why we do what we do.
that, or the cliche, the journey. Like, you really have to fall in love with the journey. Because we've all had some amazing destinations, and I will return to those destinations because I love them that much. But you really have to fall in love with that journey along the way
that's the
to
definition.
sustain this.
Yes, that's the definition of why we do what we do, and it's that always looking just beyond what. Yeah, I've done these really special journeys, but what's the next one?
Right.
And it could be not just travel, it could be life, it could be choices that you make, it could be changes you make in a personal way. It doesn't have to involve mobility. It could be an inner journey.
Absolutely.
Which this is really what it's all about. I think that's why the Overlanding community, why Overland Expo took off, because it's also about personal growth and the ability to see yourself become what you want to become stronger, more independent, or just, to imagine that, starting out, I've never driven a 4-wheel drive, to, I'm going to do this. I'm going to drive the Alaskan highway to Prudhoe Bay. And you do it. And that changes you.
Yeah.
Or it's a mental journey. I'm going to learn to be more independent and embrace that. So I really like that.
Yeah, I think for me, it's been like learning to be really honest, or going through the process of becoming more honest with who I am in its entirety. Not in the part that's like really glamorous and like, oh, look how cool this is. Well, that's fun. It's also embracing kind of the like, ooh, I don't do that real well. Or that's a part I don't really like about how I handle that. Or, that's a relationship that definitely needs some work, and I just haven't decided to deal with that the way I know I need to. And I think maybe that comes with age too, just with going through a lot of different experiences. But I think the process of traveling in general kind of forces you get to see a lot of versions of yourself.
Oh, that's true. Some of them you don't like.
Some of them you don't like. But I think if you're in it for the right reasons,
what are the right reasons?
Well, I think it's I feel like I'm just a Pinterest board right now. It's
that's the Overlanding Pinterest
I know
board.
It's terrible.
No,
but because of like life's journey is all about. It's not about collecting things. It's experiences. It's but there's so much truth to that, because the experiences allow us to kind of realize how we're lying to ourselves or others, and thinking we're getting by because, well, it's important that everyone thinks I know what I'm doing, and you're slowly realizing that none of us know what we're doing.
And that is an age thing.
Yeah.
Because I totally agree. But it's also, I like where this is heading in terms of, what do we call it? It's kind of a mindfulness. It's a mindset that means you're paying attention.
Yeah.
And that could be of yourself. Like, who am I? What is the real version of me? To my community, the world. Am I paying attention? Am I being mindful of these things? Because that is sorely lacking in today's society, the mindfulness. And travel, overlanding, what I do now, the journaling and teaching people that is a way of reaching farther into our experiences and coming out kind of changed, a better person maybe, because we know for sure that too much screen time, she says, while people are watching us on screen.
This one's okay.
This one gets an A rating for being good for you. It's too much screen time is bad for us. It really is. There's plenty of studies. It contributes to depression and suicide. It gives us anxiety, and it also makes people less altruistic. I found that fascinating. That means...
Explain that a little bit.
Yeah, you're less likely. You have less empathy for other humans. Right. That is really interesting. But if we become more mindful through travel, through keeping journals or that type of thing, that actually increases the endorphins that drive better health, your blood pressure, yourself, but it also makes you a better citizen. Mm-hmm. It makes you more aware of others, whether the others are people or animals. So I just kind of like that. Where everything's going in my life right now is coming back to that. And I love that Storyteller Network has a lot of those taglines.
Yeah.
In the stillness. Mm-hmm. The stillness means, it doesn't mean sitting on your butt. It means paying attention, creating, exploring, giving. Yeah. These are things that drive us. Sorry for that pun.
No, I missed it.
Oh, shit.
But that being present, I think, and society's gotten so busy with just technology, and it's great. Again, all the things we've said that are positive about
lets us connect, right?
Absolutely. But it does really reduce the ability to be present. Mm-hmm. And again, I mean, back to, I think, why we do what we do is because it's a great way if you're doing it for the right reasons. I know, like, me and the girls, like, a lot of times, like, when we get to camp or a vista or something, that just is really awe-inspiring, where you're just like, oh, wow. That stillness, and then that you're forced to be present. And in today's society, and most of us live in cities and go to the grocery store and do normal life, we so long for those moments of just no distractions, and you can be completely present. And that's we've always said, like, that's the addictive part of what we're going after.
It is. And that's one of the reasons I've created a new event.
Of course, you do this.
I do this. Whatever. Why not? These are very small, but they're called Field Arts Bootcamps. And what you said is just exactly what we do. Actually, I find a place where there's no mobile, no connection to the internet. So it's usually a really wild place. And you have to be fully present. And then we spend 4 days. It's like camp for adults. It's like field camp for adults. You get to track animals, learn how to draw, learn how to paint, sketch, learn to read the weather, collect your own rocks and make paint from rocks.
This is amazing.
But that's why, though, it's the being present.
Yeah.
It's that theme. It's coming back. And it's not disconnecting, because we're often connecting with each other that way, but it's losing the distractions of the modern world, which is really harmful. I feel like I am in a place right now where I hope I'm not permanently damaged by multitasking, because the 10 years of Overland Expo was a marathon of multitasking, and I'm really good at it. But it damaged me for being able to focus on one thing. I didn't know that. And I'd love to hear from people who have had an experience. Can you get it back? I can't focus on one thing very long.
I don't know. Is that a Pandora's box that once
I don't know, but it's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
It's a sideline, but it's part of the reason I intentionally created these field arts boot camps is that's a time where I get to focus as well. And I get to lead other people into that ability to focus on hey, let's go track animals for a few hours, you know, and read the dirt.
Your journaling is something that you share on social media.
Yes.
It is a picture, I think, of like the spirit of adventure in that, because just I love things that are hands-on, and I only learn unless I'm like actually getting in there and doing it. And I pretend to be artistic sometimes here and there. I don't have enough it's a lack of discipline, honestly.
Oh yeah, you hit that, because I was going to come back and tell you that's not true.
Well, because there have been moments where I've been very surprised what I've been able to produce.
Yes.
And then I come back and I can't figure out why.
It takes attention to it.
Yeah. So I know it's there.
Yeah.
I've heard you say that before, and I'm like, no, she's right. I don't want to admit she's right, but no. But I mean, so are these classes that you're taking like kind of teaching you to also journal again, like journal your experience, your adventure?
Yes, so that's what I teach. It's I call it nature journaling, field sketching. If I call it nature journaling, I get mostly women sign up. If I call it field sketching, I get a lot more of the men. Nature journaling sounds a little woo-woo, you know. I'm not a woo-woo person.
Oh, I picked up on that.
Yeah. But it could be travel journaling. It could be, and I think a lot of people have a desire to do that. They see really inspiring journals from people, maybe old ones like Lewis and Clark are so cool with those.
And that's some amazing journaling that I just recently watched a documentary, and I was just like fascinated with.
Well, of course they had to. They didn't have cameras.
There was no way to document it.
It was the only way. And actually, Lewis and Clark, Jefferson, the president, specifically charged them with creating these journals because that was going to be the map of how we were going to conquer the rest of the continent. Yeah. So really cool. So I think we're inspired by that. And I hear from people like, I want to do that. I want to, but then I hear, but I can't draw. And I'm like, no, you can't. It's not something you're born with. No one is born with the ability to draw well. And it's a skill. That's all it is. And it just takes repetition and learning. You don't do it overnight. It took me many years. I think I started trying to sketch about 8 years ago, and then I stopped because they were ugly. Okay. They were, stick figures and strange things. And, I drew a lizard. My husband was like, "Why did you draw Jabba the Hutt in your journal?" Like, oh man, I'm going to stop.
That's not good.
So I stopped completely. And then in 2017, I really decided, okay, I got to put in the miles here, the pencil miles, as John Muir-Laws says. And yeah, at a certain point, you can do it. And I do teach it. I teach some jump starts on how to get over the fear.
You've created art, though. I mean, in my opinion,
I don't call it that, but I should. I'm actually violating one of the things that I teach, and that is when someone compliments you, you should say thank you.
Just say thank you. I'm going to tell you it's art. Well, and we were kind of chit-chatting right before we started, and how I have the tendency to kind of, where I don't like a lot of things, but there are certain things that are very special. Mm-hmm. And your journaling, to me, are like little time capsules of where you're at.
They're little mini stories of that moment.
In some ways, I love like the Instagram accounts, because it can kind of be these photo capsules, and then we can write and kind of journal in this post itself. And so sometimes I'm like, oh, I love that that's there, that I can go back several years and relive a moment in that trip. Yeah. But the beauty of what you're putting into them, not the specific details of the foliage or wildlife or whatever, and then a photo or an amazing painting, or I don't know, these things that you're adding to them, like that is the time capsule that I don't know. I put that at a higher level of value for some reason.
And I think a lot of people do, and they see it as an unobtainium kind of thing, that I'll never be able to do that. But I definitely feel like that's not true, that we can all do it. Mm-hmm. It does take a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's not something you
discipline.
Can go,
that thing called discipline.
You can't snap your fingers and in a next week or even a year be like doing that. But I felt the turn where I was like, oh wow, I can do this. I still can't do live animals very well. That's a super intense professional artist skill. I never will be a professional artist. I don't want to be. Yeah. I'm there to record my journeys, what I see, what I feel. Definitely not doing this for studio or anything like that. And that helps free you from the inner tyrant of perfectionism. It's like, no, it's for me.
Yeah.
It's just for me.
But I think that makes it powerful then for us who get to like observe it.
And I hope that people feel that.
Yeah,
that
I think it comes through.
Yeah, that it's really fun. It's we try to teach people who also teach what I do, journaling. We try to say it's not about the pretty pictures, but we know that on the internet, on Instagram, the pretty pictures get the most likes,
Of course,
and so do the sexy photos or the, like those get the most likes.
Right.
So, that's a human thing. I think we can't get around it, but we can try. We can say, It's not about the pretty pictures. Stop liking that. Stop it.
Yeah, that's an uphill battle. That's like, the internet is fundamentally flawed with that.
It's a strange.
But while it feels like you're outnumbered and this is like where society is going and, it's like, does it even matter what we put out there? Or if we want to put something that we think really should be valued and isn't, like, well, if I just get my throat out there and nobody cares. I think at some level, all of the things that I've been doing, there's so much of it that I do for me. Now, I do think that, like, once you lock that in, it does need to be, like, what are you giving back and how are you giving back to your community and building up? But at its core, like, a lot of my decisions to do things in life are for me and therefore putting it out there regardless of people's response to it.
Yes.
Like, what a great thing is, like, even if you were completely ridiculed and shunned by society, which you're definitely not, but and we will make sure that doesn't ever happen. But even if that was happening, like, I mean, how many great artists or great thinkers, like, beyond their time were then discovered and you were like, oh, look someone was saying something. Yeah. Someone was speaking out against what was happening. And I think that can inspire people well beyond our time here.
It does. I'm reading a number of works by Robert Macfarlane right now. He's a British author. He's a scholar. And he writes a lot about that, and he reaches back and is inspired by people who've written about landscapes in particular, or drawn them, or had some interaction with landscapes. And what I was wanting to say, you inspired me to say when you said, well, I'm doing it just for me, I'm putting it out there, maybe in the future there will be a way of giving back. I disagree. I think putting out your adventures has a subtext of inspiring people to go do the same and fall in love with a place. Mm-hmm. And if you fall in love with a place, you're far more likely to protect it, to want it to stay wild. Mm-hmm. There's a group of us artists and explorers who met on the internet who are trying to take that to the next level for working on legislation that can help protect more wild spaces, or take it to you take this interaction that you've had, whether it's photos or whatever of your favorite wild place, and if you go to a senator's office with that and you say, this is an important place, we don't want to lose this, as way too many, there's populations exploding, etc. We're going to lose places. So that's always been so important to me. So I think that what we do is, whether it's posting valuable on Instagram or doing a journal, it's super important and part of why we explore.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree. I can't agree more with that. So, well, last night we went out to dinner and we were all kind of getting to know each other, and a conversation I kind of came in on halfway, but I found it really interesting because I think it makes sense with what we're talking about. Why are people inspired? How are they inspired by what we're putting out there? The journals or the social media or just the voice that you have in the community. But I think you asked a very interesting question to us, and it was kind of an icebreaker question, but it really made all of us think, I think.
I'm trying to remember which one, like we were drinking, so I'm not sure.
Yeah. I won't go too far into the evening. Okay. No, it was early in the evening.
Okay. Oh, early. Okay, then we were definitely we were awesome.
No, we're good. But you asked each of us, like, what is the cliff that you jumped off of? And that obviously is not literal. I mean, although it could be. That would be a very, very physical representation.
And some people do that.
Yes, not me. But it got me thinking. And so I know we were all kind of answering our own like moment or moments that we've had over the years. But what was your cliff that you jumped off of, or something, I guess, that impacted your life in a big way?
It literally, we call it jumping off cliffs, and people see adventurous people like you and your team, and they want to know how did you get to do what you do? And I get asked all the time. It's like, oh, I want to do that. I want to have a life like that. And my answer is, well, you have to be willing to jump off cliffs and to trust that your parachute's going to open and you're not going to go splat at the bottom. And my husband and I have done this, I want to say like 5 times over our 38 years together. And every time we fly, and it takes us to someplace else. But you have to be willing to take these really scary risks. So our first one was, I was probably 21, 22, and he was 32. We were still in school, I think, just finished college. That was it. He was late coming to college. And we were offered out of the blue this opportunity to become naturalists and caretakers at a wildlife refuge in southern Arizona down by the Mexico border. It was really remote and really wild place. It was a new wildlife refuge acquisition, and we would live in this remote canyon for like, wow, how do we say no? So we quit our jobs. We had no idea how we were going to make any income whatsoever. This is 1995. Okay. There was no internet access yet, really, more or less. I mean, there was on university campuses, but it wasn't like we have today.
Right.
How are we going to survive?
Starlink in the 90s.
No, nothing like that. There was an old phone line that did come up this canyon to the ranch house. And we just went for it. We jumped off the cliff. We had no idea how we were going to make money, what we were going to do with our house. It was scary. It was really scary. And it led to the most amazing things. I use that word a lot, amazing, but it's a great word. Yeah. It really did. We had mountain lions walking across the porch. Wow. We were in the same place as Arizona's first known jaguar coming back to the landscape. He was photographed right over the hill from us, and we heard him in the canyon. Wow. Doing the jaguar roar.
And like a dinosaur.
It is unreal. Yeah. It actually, we had no idea what it was. And it was later that a friend played a recording of a jaguar in Brazil, and we were like, oh my gosh. And we found his tracks later, a couple years later. And that changed our lives. Yeah. It just sent us on a course. We wrote a lot of natural history books out of that experience. Well, it gave us the time and the ability to become really expert naturalists. And then we wrote a lot of books, and a lot of my field notes and writings, the journals, were intrinsic to that. And then that just led us into all these other adventures in cliffs. I mean, Overland Expo was a major cliff.
Yeah, and I can imagine.
Yeah. Things that minor cliffs, like the time we accidentally bought a Land Cruiser in Australia on the internet. I won't say accidentally, but it was it wasn't planned.
Okay. Those are the best stories start.
Well, it's this website where you look at 70 series Land Cruisers, and if you know Land Cruisers, it's like, oh, that's the holy grail. Exactly. And it's like, add to cart. Really, add to cart.
That's too easy.
Yeah.
I might as well.
We did it.
It's a great story, too. I'm sure there's
we still have the Land Cruiser.
You still have it, right?
My second favorite vehicle.
The Land Cruisers are such a beloved vehicle for our community. I mean, they're just so much. There's so much history.
Oh yeah.
They feel like they carry the history of overlanding because they've kind of been present for so long.
Yeah, I've had 1, 2, 3, 4 Land Cruisers.
Oh.
And we still have the 2, and our first date was in Jonathan's FJ40.
You always have to have them then.
I know.
An FJ40.
Well,
That's
and he's
classic.
not. I'm the opposite of, you know how those horrible men who call their wives the handbrake, you know, who won't let him buy more stuff. But I'm the opposite. I'm like, if you ever sell that Land Cruiser, you're dead. No, he sold his Porsche 911, and I haven't forgiven him for that one.
Oh, well, you're a good match
My
then.
favorite vehicle.
I can see it. That sounds like a favorite. My husband is a big Porsche fan, so
Yeah, totally don't forgive him for that one.
no.
Anyway. So cliffs.
Well, have you found that, jumping off a cliff sounds dramatic.
It is, but it can be. I mean, it's scary.
Absolutely. I don't mean to take away from the actual risk of the scenario, but do you find that once you've started that, it gets easier?
As a life choice?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. And
I do.
To me, that's really exciting to discover that is the case. And I think maybe somewhere intellectually you also, of course, if you step out and take risks, that activity becomes more natural or easier to get to that decision quicker.
Yes, you learn that the scary things are manageable, that having no income, well, I'll put that into perspective though. We have a rule called the Circle K rule, which is we never get ourselves in a financial situation for which we couldn't work at a Circle K and still survive.
Okay.
So we don't get gigantic mortgages. We've never bought anything out of our means. We don't get huge loans. We stay within our grasp.
Yeah.
So that's been our rule. So that helps you with the kind of jumping off cliffs because we can do that. We can quit our jobs and know that we'll be okay.
Yeah.
That we don't have gigantic student loans or a 5,000 square foot house we're trying to pay off.
Yeah. And I mean, to that point, that I feel like that doesn't need to be, it's not required. But I think that perspective kind of goes back to that, where you put your priorities and how you manage things and how people can be like, why are you spending so much money on a vehicle or
7 vehicles like we have.
I hear you. And I don't feel that people need to have insight to everyone's finances. I don't think that that's something that has to be shared. But I do think that point of there's been a lot of intention in how the money has been divided or how you're choosing to spend it. And I don't think that I have to say, I understand why credit cards exist, and sometimes credit's great and you need to take advantage of it. But in our community, I do think just a warning, your credit card isn't how you build a vehicle. It's just not wise.
Wait. We always told them at Overland Expo that you could.
I mean, okay. I don't have the business, any money to make off of that. But I do think that
it's
as someone who has come into and works with companies and you act as an influencer in these marketing realms, I do think it's these are expensive things and do require some thought. It's not just pull out the credit card and you got to have this. So
and the more you pull out the credit card and have to pay off that debt, the longer it's going to take you to be able to go do something because you got to pay it off.
You're enslaved to that credit card.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I joke, it's true though. You got to stay within some means.
But that has given you freedom. I guess that was my point.
Yes,
is by choosing to live that way, you then have the freedom to make these big decisions.
And go do crazy things. Like when someone offered me a chance to go work in East Africa, heading up a conservation organization. I was like, well, yeah, I have no idea how I'm going to do
Where did you go in
this.
East Africa?
So I was an organization in Kenya.
Okay.
And so I was liaisoning back and forth, U.S., Kenya. Got to spend a lot of time there and in investigating projects in Ethiopia and all over Kenya, and did a ton of really cool solo overlanding, you'd call it. Get in usually a Hilux and covered thousands and thousands of miles visiting remote communities and groups we were working with. And sometimes in crazy spots where you have to get an escort from here to here because there's Somalian bandits who come in from the north, and it's like, yeah, you're going to die. So
what an interesting, a different reality.
So that, again, but if I hadn't been ready to jump off that cliff, I think people can convince themselves, oh no, how do I do that? I don't know how to do that. I can't, I'm afraid. Well, God, you just miss all these opportunities.
Yeah.
And then that led to meeting other dear friends now in East Africa and actually all over the continent, but gaining the confidence then, for example, to then in 2012, we helped lead an expedition across the Libyan desert in Egypt. And we were recreating a journey that occurred in 1912 in 2012. It was really, really mind-blowing.
It's like a time machine. Like getting
getting to drive across the Great Sand Sea and in 3 Land Cruisers, which was not camels. We didn't take camels.
Oh, man.
No, it was more fun in the Land Cruisers. Getting chased by bandits with AK-47s. That was awesome. That was crazy. That wasn't fun. And of course, my husband was laughing hysterically during it when I'm like so angry at him because he's that guy.
Got it.
Well, we were getting away. It was okay, but I wasn't happy.
I wonder why.
But it was that classic thing of a bunch of guys in a technical Toyota pickup truck, all piled in the back with guns, and they were like, kind of cut us off, and they're like, "We'll show you the way," and we're like, "No," and we took off, and they, it was crazy. So,
well, you survived, which is good.
Yeah, we kind of went across some areas. It was, I suppose now it's a great story, but we could have been on the internet, as to 8 Americans gunned down in southern Egypt.
I mean, but it's become like a running statement. There's always risk with stuff. There's like, you got to...
to be fair, we wouldn't go back to the Syria today.
Well, it has changed
you aren't allowed to go into the Syria today because of the bandits.
Yeah.
We were a vanguard.
Well, yeah. I mean, but you took those adventures and you did those types of travel when you could, because and the reality is a lot of the places that we can travel today may not be available tomorrow.
Yeah.
So speaking of areas that maybe are no longer accessible for whatever reason, political or danger, just life moves on.
Yeah.
We kind of touched on last night about someone that inspires you or has recently become something that you just has been fascinating. And she traveled via motorcycle. I hate to come back to a motorcycle, but
it's a theme.
She's an adventurer that I think it transcends any topic we're talking about. But
it does.
I would love for you to talk about her story, because I think I've heard of her. I've seen her book. And when we talked about it last night, I'm like, okay, that's the next book I'm going to.
I highly recommended.
But she traveled.
Yes. So Elspeth Beard.
Yes.
In the early 1980s, was an architecture student in London and decided to hop on a motorcycle, a BMW R80, and ride around the world. And just took off and had incredible adventures. This was a time before much of the world was connected the way it is today, obviously. And it was really tough. And she worked along the way. She didn't have a lot of money. So she would stop, for example, in Australia, worked for a while to get more money and continued on. But she had it was difficult. It wasn't easy. I don't want to downplay what people are doing today, but I've driven a lot of the route that Elspeth took, and it's completely changed in Australia, in South America. I'm getting lattes at the Costa gas stations, or there's now a Chi-Chi Cafe in the backcountry of Australia, where she was going to these roadhouses where the men didn't want women there. And she had to leave and camp in the bush because they didn't want a woman there. It was a badass, crazy place. And the easy Stewart Highway that we drove, where it's like tarmac and so easy, it was dirt when she was on it, and it flooded. And anyway, she had these incredible adventures. She got back, first British woman to do this, possibly first woman, and she was ignored and ridiculed, basically. The magazines, motorcycle magazines, which I have to say, I won't say the name of the guy or the name of the magazine, that ridiculed her. And I mean, she just shut down and put her notebooks in a box for 25 years, and you never hear of her. But he apologized this year.
He did.
Yes.
Oh, well,
and had her. I thought that was up and up.
Yeah.
But she's written now. 25 years later, she wrote a fantastic book. And recently, she's brought her picture book out. I just saw it in England this past September. It's brand new. So all her photos have been retouched and brought to life.
Has it been published?
Yes.
It's out there? Oh,
so you
wow.
can get it now. So, but she's inspiring because she did this at a time when it was really difficult and succeeded. And now she's telling her story, and she's really honest in the book, which about her feelings and the struggles. And I see this a lot in honest adventure writing, where she talks about how hard it was. And it wasn't just this la Instagram thing, like
Right. Everything's perfect.
Everything's perfect. My hair always looks like this. But, and so to me, that's really inspiring. And so she does a lot of events now, and is awesome. really loved in the community. So
that's cool. And did you get to interact with her?
Yes, we flew her out. She came to Overland Expo a couple of times.
Okay.
So I brought her in I brought in a lot of the British explorers and adventurers.
That's awesome.
At the time, America hadn't as many as England had, because of the culture of overlanding that is so ingrained in the British culture. So I brought in a lot of people like Sam Manicom, Ted Simon. A lot of them are motorcycle people, Lois Price, and some of the vehicle people, Chris Scott and Toby Savage. We brought them over annually, and it kind of helped set that tone. We always had authors. Most of them are authors. Simon and Lisa Thomas, if you don't know who they are. Incredible.
I feel like there's a whole catalog of individuals. And I'm grateful to our initial conversation. And I think that day I'd never had the honor to kind of get walked around and be like, let's have you meet this person, and let's talk to this person. And so my life has kind of changed a lot in the last year, and just the relationships have changed. So it's put me in front of talking to people that I didn't even know was a thing. So it's kind of my own fault, but I was like, I didn't even know to go digging for this information. But you were kind of that initial And then the next person I met, an hour later that day, was another person who had this great storied past of travel and, these international stories. And I was like, and then I'm starting to realize, okay, I was ignorant. There are some amazing stories out there. And
we're back to stories.
Yep, I know.
No, that's good. That's what it's all about. And there's an undercurrent of stories through the Overland and the Overland Expo. Definitely, you want to find those stories.
I want to find those stories. I want to know those stories. And then I think I've become, again, through this year, the podcast is obviously kind of an acceleration of that, but wanting to tell or help tell those stories in a way.
And some people aren't good at telling their stories. There's obviously, we meet the ones who are good because
their stuff's out there.
Yeah. And there are loads of people who could use that kind of push to tell me your story.
Yeah.
They might think they've really, that's nothing anyone would be interested in, but it is.
Yeah.
So that's so inspiring to hear.
Well, and I watched, there was a couple conversations, and ours was not one of these ones, but it was an interesting, you could feel that there was a bit of, it's all changed so much. And kind of feeling like their voice got kind of drowned out by the glitz and the glamour of the new of what's happening.
I see that.
I'm not, and I know they weren't either. I'm not downplaying what's happening right now. electric vehicles and shiny, everything.
Yeah.
But it kind of tugged at my heart a little bit that like, oh, I don't want to lose those stories. Like we got to figure out a way to document or collect or get those out there. Like, because to me, this is the heart of what I do. And I don't even know if I knew that. It was like, I just had this feeling, there's something deeper. And then getting to hear these stories of these, to me, they seem so grand. And I know they're just travel, but it's like, oh, that's something I can aspire to and a mentality that I would like to work towards.
Yes.
So to feel re-inspired while you're trying to figure out how to inspire other people is so valuable. It's like, oh, you need that. You need to like be searching for, and it's like, oh, let's talk, let's show this. Let's talk about these stories. So I thank you for that, because I think you're a big part of that for me.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you, because that's why I do what I do. It's about that sharing and hoping to connect those people with all of us, connect us. I guess strange thing for someone who's kind of antisocial too.
I know, like we said at the beginning, it's like, it's funny, but I think you just value solitude. I think there's a difference between. I am a little antisocial, but solitude and solitary are different. Yeah, and then you could be intentional, I think, with both. I think as you learn how to balance the two, you need this time to recenter, and then there's also sometimes it is more of a challenge to be extroverted. It's like, but you're doing this because you realize the benefit to the community, sharing that story and the impact that can have.
Yeah, so. People think I'm extroverted, but I'm really not.
You fooled me, but I could also see. I understand what you're saying. I can see you're good at it. You're good at talking to people. So
thank you.
Well, on that note, thank you so much for spending the time with me. I really appreciate this time. I would love to sit down and talk more. I mean, as we've said, we know we could probably talk for a long time, but
around a campfire. Yes. Let's do that.
Let's do that.
Because that's when the best stuff happens.
It is. It really is.
So
next time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jane.
And that's it, folks. And Mike Glover, we ran out of time.